Welcome to episode 77 of Everything Business Consulting. Today I'm excited to interview Jason Owens, a successful consultant and entrepreneur from Pennsylvania. Jason, are you ready to tell us everything about your business consulting journey?
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope this proves helpful to other people out there doing the same thing.
Absolutely, Jason. Now I know you've been consulting for 4 years. Can you take us back and tell us what you were doing before you got into the industry?
Sure. Right out of college, my family we started a business, and I owned a few businesses and ran them prior to consulting. And then after the sale of our one main business, where I was actually part of that sale, I had to go to work for the acquiring company. And honestly, that's where my consulting career started, because at the age of 34, I became an employee for the first time in my life. And what an eye-opening experience that was, because, um, you know, fortunately for me, my business experience was pretty diverse in both industries that I had worked in, as well as different functional areas within a business. So, for instance, our manufacturing company started out in the gift and decorative industry, and then transitioned into the collegiate and licensed goods, and then onto the specialty branding and point of purchase. So during this time, I was, heavily involved with everything from sales and marketing, research and development, production optimization, new product development, and supply chain. So when I went to work for the acquiring company, my primary objective was to business development to an industry that they really weren't serving, which I had experience in. And it was through the next 4 or so years of working with different companies that I realized that I felt like I had something to offer small and other entrepreneurs out there. And so I figured I should be a consultant.
Jason, I didn't know that you hadn't been in employment. You'd somehow avoided it for 34 years. How did you go that long without working for the man?
Well, I guess in high school I did. I worked for a few trade companies. I was in masonry. I was in carpentry, and yeah, then I did work for an hourly wage. But I really knew from a young age. I think when I started being a paper boy when I was 13 or 14, and all I did was kept acquiring more and more routes and doing more and more. And I just knew that I wanted to have the freedom to be my own boss, and that is, it drove me that, I can't tell you that I ever went on a family vacation or really anywhere and didn't see an opportunity to start a business, or be involved in a business, or tweak something that was out there. So I just knew that I really wanted to be in business for myself. And so yeah, I was fortunate right out of college, and we started this business. And then I learned so much. You definitely learn a lot, going to college, but what you learn in seeing this business, and our business actually we were partners in a company, and it's mind-boggling what you see and what you learn on a daily basis. So it's above and beyond anything you could learn in school. So it was really cool, and I was very fortunate to do that.
And you've already given us a few little nuggets and some ideas, but can you tell us in a bit more detail what attracted you to business consulting?
Well, really the real driver was wanting to help other entrepreneurs, right? So, after seeing how businesses out there were being run, it was very clear to me that that businesses needed help. And, fast forward, that was, clearly before COVID, and then, move forward past that, and it's like we're in a business boom right now, and these entrepreneurs just really have no idea. So I mean, it's just, what you see once you get out there, once you have a knowledge base of what you would expect a business to be run like, and you see how they really are being run. I just knew that there were plenty of businesses out there that needed help and needed guidance. And then, like I said, this business boom we're in right now, uh, it's just, opportunities are everywhere because there are so many people, especially in the United States. I don't really know what it's like in New Zealand, but so many people, leaving their jobs and starting businesses, and they're very naive. They just don't know what it takes to run a business because many of them have never been in this position before. So, all kinds of opportunities, and I love, like I said, my main goal and my main thing in business for almost 20 years now has just been, if you help enough other people get what they want, you can have everything you want. A famous Zig Ziglar quote, by the way.
They don't know what they don't know when they're just starting out, so there's definitely a lot of opportunity there. And Jason, you've been very helpful to our network at our weekly network webinars. You jump on and you act as an ambassador and a helper to provide your guidance and expertise as a consultant for our new members coming on board. And that quote that you've given us, that seems to be one of the most valuable quotes that everyone takes on board, is just that willingness and ability to help other people so you can get where you want to go yourself.
Yeah, and the funny thing is about that is, that quote came about because my ex-wife got involved with a network marketing company, and that was one of the motivational quotes that came out of it. And as soon as I heard it and kind of noodled it around for a little bit, and when I implemented that into our existing business, our current business, flourished as well. And that's when I knew that it was really just so important to be genuine and help and be more worried about what all your customers are doing and how to help them be successful. And I guess in turn, that actually is consulting, right? Like, you're selling a product, but as long as they're successful, you're going to be plenty successful yourself.
Absolutely. Now, Jason, can you tell us what happened when you got started and in your first 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was working for other companies, I think I actually started consulting by accident, and just talking with other business owners out there, and when I was sharing what I was experiencing by working for somebody else, and sharing how I would do it differently, business owners opened up to me, and I actually got 4 clients before I ever really announced starting being a consultant. So, I was working with an HVAC company, a concrete company, a golf course, and a beauty company that, I don't know much about beauty, but I mean, if you know business and you know the goals and the individual pieces, you can pretty much help, any business be better than they are, especially when, if you think about the ones that I just mentioned, a lot of those guys are trades guys that are very good at their craft, but they don't most times know the ins and outs of actually everything about a business.
Yep, I agree. I've seen that exact same thing many times over, where the technician is an amazing technician and they're the expert at the technical side of stuff, but when it comes to thinking about the business, they're just so stuck in that technical aspect of their role and their profession that they often can't see the bigger picture, nor are they often the right type of personality to engage fully with that either.
Those tradespeople that I'm talking about, so many times they're excellent at it, and they do well in, being an electrician or a plumber or HVAC, whatever, and they don't realize that it's not just about doing the work, and they think just because they're good at it and they're tired of paying their current employer a portion of what they're making, that that they think they know it all, and that is, I've made a pretty decent living helping that group of people, because there's so many out there that they just don't understand, human resources and, financing, and I mean, you name it. There's so much sales and marketing and branding. It goes on and on.
Yep, I've definitely seen that. Jason, can you tell us how you acquired clients in the beginning?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting, because those first four were so simple and organic that like I said, I didn't even really announce that I was going to be that night. I didn't even believe it myself that that's what I was going to do as my next chapter, be a full-time business consultant. So those first four were very easy. And then I think what is interesting, or what really gets ConsultX involved, is that when I realized I could fill more spots in my book and I could actually take on more clients, that I I really failed quite miserably at really identifying who I should be working with, and but more importantly than that is I was really struggling with articulating how I could be the return on investment that they would get by hiring me. So that was, I think, the where ConsultX came into my life really was because I literally was talking to so many prospects, and every time, like without a doubt, they'd go, "So, young man, how do you know you can help my business? You don't know anything about my business." And I'm like, "You're right." But so I struggled with that, and that's really where, like I said, I was living both in Philadelphia and New York at the time, and I was spending a lot of time driving. So I started researching, podcasts. This one came up, of course, and once I started listening to David over a few episodes, I realized that I was missing some of these key elements in the business, and the systems and tools that you should definitely have to do this properly.
Can you tell us what some of those tools and systems that you've really found useful to acquiring clients are, and how that affects you, or how that gives you the ability to acquire clients now?
So after joining ConsultX and going through the training, I realized just how important this client acquisition system, that the three-step process that ConsultX has, and it was the golden ticket. So I went after a few different, like I took that and really figured out how I could get in front of as many different types of people in different ways as possible. So I definitely used referrals. I mean, considering I already had four businesses and I clearly was talking to many business owners that had already known what I've done in the past. And those, frankly, are the easy ones, because they've seen you or know somewhat about what you did in the past, and whether they believe you were successful or not, they're definitely willing to listen. But the ones that are really the tough ones, tough nuts to crack, are the cold calls and the people that literally have never heard of you or your previous business experience. So once I realized that our client acquisition process was so great, I, besides using the referrals, I went out and started networking with a bunch of professional service people, and talking with them and sharing with them how I'm willing to do, pretty much full business evaluations at no charge. They were like, wow, so you clearly know something. And pretty much anybody in our network has this tool. It's just if they are aware that they have this tool and figure out a way that implement that into their talks with these business owners and the professionals that they speak with on a daily basis.
So once you've figured out how to use the tools that you have in ConsultX, how many clients did you pick up, and what types of businesses were they?
Well, I've worked with kind of a wide range. I've picked up a distillery company, a brewery, a bridal business, and it's interesting because every one of these doesn't necessarily need every bit of we work on a business as an overarching total business consultant, but a lot of these guys that I worked with after that is really on a few specific areas. And again, going back to our client acquisition, once you walk someone through our profit leakage calculator and we throw a number at them exactly about what they're losing every year on a specific area of business, it is what starts the conversation. It literally makes the transition from being, all right, you're just here to pitch me, to no, I'm really concerned that you're losing X number of dollars every year in your branding or in your marketing or whatever it may be. And I think we really should dig into that. So that is where I got into some really interesting different types of businesses. Let me think. I worked with a couple different restaurants, and I don't know. It's a restaurateur is kind of a whole is unique individual. I even work with some professional services groups. I actually worked with two different insurance companies. I worked with and some were great, and then I also added an electrician. I said I really focused on these tradespeople because I feel like there's so much value we can give to that group. And I had a carpenter at one point. He was like a GC for construction, really like home remodeling type stuff. So, I mean, you really don't have to stick to one thing. It really is with the profit leakage calculator. If you can get in front of these people and walk them through it, you will see if they need your help or not. And if they do, you may not need to, reinvent the entire book. Back when I started, I definitely lost, one of the early ones that I acquired through the profit leakage calculator. I got so hung up on really being developing a full business plan before actually worrying about developing tasks and trying to show them what I was getting, what my value was, he got frustrated, and then we ended up parting ways. But there's really, I mean, I worked with a bunch of different types of companies.
In my mind, trades are more than just the technical services that people provide. Trades are any kind of profession. It could be an accountant, it could be a lawyer, but where the expert is really good at whatever it is they're doing, whether that's with their hands or with their mind, but where the person isn't a business-minded person. So when I think of a trade or an ideal client, it's just it can be any kind of business where someone offers a service or a product, but they aren't specifically trained or educated or in some kind of a system that makes their business an amazing business, which, as you know, that's most companies out there.
Well, I mean, you mentioned accountants. I mean, accountants and lawyers are two people that are categories of people for the general, the stereotype, that really are not good at networking or going out and building a brand or marketing themselves. And they need so much. Again, you don't have to look at, a business doesn't have to need every piece of the puzzle in order for them to be a good prospect for you. You can go at them and say, look, I'll help you work on your total business. But once you do our profit leakage calculator and really evaluate their business, it becomes pretty clear where they need help, and that is up to us. And honestly, I've used some of the businesses I worked with, like especially the restaurants that I mentioned. It really comes down to using our resources library, because we have so many documents, so much information is there for us to become the professional or become the the all-knowing, if you will, and really give them the advice on areas that they don't know. And it doesn't have to be that they're failing in everywhere, right? Like very few businesses are failing in all parts, but there are always a few areas that they're just is the bottleneck of their business from moving to the next level.
Just to give our listeners a little golden nugget, accountants can be a great source of referrals. And I actually had a gentleman from our network recently reach out to an accountant to try and set up an affiliate relationship or a referral relationship to their clients. And when he went through, he decided to take the accountant through the client acquisition process so they understood the profit leakage calculator and the power of the analysis behind that. And he actually ended up acquiring the accountant as a client before he got any referrals out of him. So that just goes to show the power that is behind that. You also, Jason, started telling us about one perhaps unfortunate ending to a client relationship, and I don't want to dwell on this too much, but everyone's had some client losses. Can you tell us perhaps a little bit about that and what you could have done if you had your time again?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mentioned the one that really I was so interested in developing a full business plan for them that sometimes in doing so, you that can take a few months, right? And they're paying you on a monthly basis. And if you're not proving your ROI, if you're not returning some money to their pockets, they sometimes can become frustrated. And I did that. I got so hung up on really developing that. And there was a reason for it. I really wanted to, they were looking to get some loans and get some investors. And I told them that the most important thing to do was to develop this business plan down, dot every I, cross every T. And it was very, very important, yet the business owner didn't see that. So, moving forward from there, I realized that I need to also, once I go through one specific category of business, once you do the evaluation on, say they're losing the most money out of their branding, right? And you do that, after you evaluate that portion of their business, already a few tasks that they can do immediately to start improving that area. So I think from then on, I definitely started, giving them some pieces to start working on and delegating tasks to their team in ways to improve their business before we got to the end line of the full business plan. So that was really a shift that I made pretty early on in my consulting that I think was very important. But the other ones, there's always going to be business owners that say, yeah, man, they see the profit leakage calculator, they see the evaluation, you give them the report, and they're like, I'm on, let's do it. And a couple of them I actually fired myself rather than them leaving me. One was a small business, a family business, and I think they all thought that the business just ran itself, and they really were just not willing to do the tasks and willing to do the stuff. And I can only do so much, and as much as I could have stayed with them, and until they got frustrated, I just figured that wasn't the right move. And I ended up, saying, look, if you guys aren't going to do this, then, maybe this isn't the right fit. And we parted ways. So I don't know that in some of those cases, and there was another one that the employees were actually almost sabotaging what the business owner and I were working on to improve the business. So I kind of gave it to the business owner saying, look, man, I said, if you want this and it's your business, you need to make the employees understand that this is for the better of everybody, not just you. And they just never quite got it. So I kind of, that was another one that I left. I probably could have saved one or two. I could have saved a couple of these guys, but when you're busy and there are prospects, calling you up and there's people you're talking to all the time, sometimes it's not that important to, burn a bridge. It's better to get out and, say, hey, maybe we're just not the right fit. So I don't know that I do anything different because I actually ended up getting a referral from one of them. But then there's other ones. I mean, there's sometimes you go into a business, and did one as a favor, and it was a very, very small business, and I thought that his opportunity was fantastic, yet it was so small that my monthly fee, he expected me to be working, 80 hours a week like it was my business. And I was like, it's sometimes hard to explain to a very small business that, it's not my business. It's their business. And that becomes a little bit of a challenge too. So there's all different reasons. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes, it's not great. But like I said, I still have 3 of the first 4 businesses I ever acquired as consulting clients. So it's not that it's not all that way. It really, there's some that come and just, you hit it off and you just rock and roll and continue until, hopefully we take a couple of these guys public. It's like that, or they get sold. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, that idea of grooming your list of clients so that you've got a group of businesses that are not only profitable, but they're also good to work with, they're fun and they're enjoyable for you and they're exciting. That's what this profession is all about. You want to be feeling like you're making a difference and really enjoying getting up every day, because if you're helping people, you need to have that passion behind it and you need to feel like this is something that you want to be doing. So I applaud you on being a little bit picky with your clients when you're at the level that you could do that. Now, can you tell us, Jason, do you have 1 or 2 examples of how you have helped your clients to build better businesses?
Oh man, for sure. I often use the HVAC company, which is the only one of the first 4 that I started with that I'm not currently working with. But I helped him identify a void in his local area that he could be a distributor for some of the raw materials that local contractors like himself were missing. And it was a great little investment for him to bring raw goods in and sell to the other local companies. And it proved to be an excellent source in gaining bid opportunities for new work. And it gave him a reason to network with these, what would have been competitors. But it was fantastic, and it benefited him significantly. And then I also worked with him as a recruiter and finding, really, key managers and foremen and stuff in the field. But one of the cool things I did was we worked together on building campaigns, going out to much larger commercial general contractors, and that blew up his business for commercial work. And most times, like I said, I find working with these types of tradesmen that they're good at their trade, but they very often are terrible at sales, marketing, and employee management to identify and identifying new sources of business potential.
Now, as a consultant, we wouldn't normally advocate for doing that kind of on the ground work, such as being a recruiter or building campaigns or something like that. But offering those services, they can do a couple of things. One, it's going to make your life a bit more interesting, having different things to have your hands on, and it's going to integrate you as being a part of the business. But it also makes you just so valuable to the business owner. Like, how can someone that can do all of these things and roll up their sleeves when they need it, how can you get rid of someone like that? When you can do those things, you're just in it for the long term, and the business owner, they feel like you are part of the business, and there's no reason why they get rid of you.
Right. Well, and this guy in particular was, he just didn't even know where to begin to look for the right employees that he was looking for. So I wasn't the guy. I wasn't doing the interviewing and really dwindling down or taking all of these leads in and really going through the resumes and applications and stuff. I wasn't that guy, but I really helped him form the way to approach it and different areas that he should be looking and asking for, referrals of employees. and that really was where I took, I say recruiter, and I guess, there's a lot of people out there that make a good living being recruiters, and I wasn't the guy that was making the 25% markup on the lockup of a new employee, but I was definitely there helping him find the right employees and look in areas that he just was completely unfamiliar with. So I hear you, and I don't ever want to go too far down a path of doing something that's outside of our realm, but there's always, once in a while that it's worth it because you definitely grow that relationship that much more.
You talked about it at the start of this interview, Jason. Just always having your eyes wide open for opportunity, and when you have that mindset, we call that the business consulting glasses, where you're always looking for ways to improve things, looking for places that new clients might be hiding. When you've got that mindset and those glasses on, then the world is just full of possibilities.
Yeah, and that actually is perfect for my other kind of a success story, if you will, of a client is the golf course that I currently work with. Again, a lot of times business owners kind of get stuck in their core product offering, and in this case, of course, is they're trying to get people to play golf, right? But what we ended up talking about and brainstorming on was figuring out options and ways to bring in maybe people that would not ever think of patronizing their business. So we brainstormed and came up with, we developed an entire networking group for the golf course that actually met there, and I forget what it was. I think it's every other Monday or once a month. It might be once a month now since COVID started, but they have a really nice dinner, and it's really a bunch of professionals that meet at the golf course, and not all of them, some are members of country clubs nearby and whatever, but now that they're members of this networking group, they are bringing clients to the golf course. So not only are people paying for the networking, but they're also benefiting because they're bringing clients and new people to their business. And then on top of that, this place has a lot of space and a lot of areas to do different types of events. And we've hosted bands, and we've used other big tent spaces for things like sushi making classes and country line dancing. We even had on the first tee, we even did a sunset yoga class one time, and there are people coming there now to do their weddings and receptions. And then there's always everybody and their brothers looking for a fundraising event, and a lot of times when they're brainstorming about fundraising events, they think of, let's throw a golf tournament, but it doesn't even have to be that. We're now reaching out to them and be like, look, maybe you don't need us for golf, but consider us for this, this, and this. And it's just showed them, the golf course, that if you don't just focus on how to get more golfers there, the people that do come to these other events in some way end up benefiting you and coming and making you money, whether it's spending money at your bar and restaurant, or maybe they buy gift cards for people in their family that do golf, right? So it's just blown up like all over the place. And now this place is almost like a destination. They've even gone as far as they purchased a property next door and have an Airbnb, and now they host bands there, and they have the bridal suite and stuff like that when people are doing it. It kind of is amazing how getting them outside their comfort zone of just offering golf is just, there's plenty more of them out there all across the country.
Well, that's an incredible story, Jason. It sounds like a real, like you say, a destination rather than just a golf course now.
Right.
You've been a member of ConsultX since 2018. Can you tell us how you've benefited from it?
Well, I wouldn't be where I am today. I can honestly say that if I hadn't signed up with ConsultX. And for all of you listening that are not ConsultX members, I'm not saying that ConsultX is the only method, but I will say that the tools and resources that ConsultX offers are pretty much everything that you absolutely need in order to succeed being a consultant. And it was just definitely something that I didn't put enough credit into when I started, because like I said earlier, I got these 4 clients so organically and easily that I didn't really think that I needed it. And then when you start going to a cold market, you realize some of this other stuff is so important. And when I listened to the podcast and I started digging into ConsultX and realized all the tools and all the things you get by being a member of ConsultX, it completely changed, because I now was able to prove to a prospect without a shadow of a doubt, before I ever even suggested asking to work with them, how much money they were losing every year because their systems and processes were not running efficiently. And, having that alone is, like I said, it's like this, it's a golden ticket. So if you're out there considering being a consultant or an advisor or a coach, whatever you want to call it, and I just am telling you, you need to have the tools in order to do it properly, do it consistently, repeatedly, and show results. Because if you don't, your reputation is only as good as your last client. And if you're not showing them that you're returning money for them, it becomes a very tough sell. And that is, talking about a sell, being in ConsultX, I went from being very long-winded, and I know I have no trouble talking, but when you're in a ConsultX position of them going through the profit leakage calculator, they control the mouse, they control the meeting, and at the end, our algorithm spits out this number to them in a very segregated way of where they're losing their money. Selling becomes simply, would you like some help returning this massive number to your bottom line? You're losing this all out of your pocket. Why don't we work together and try to get this back, keep more of this cash? And so ConsultX has changed everything for me in consulting. And because you now have these tools and systems in place that that, like I said, so many business owners think their business is the best thing since Amazon, right? And you go in there and they don't ever want to hear that they need help. So if you're just there trying to sell them that you can offer this and you can provide it, and you don't show them in any way, they're not going to believe you. And our system has a way of just making it not emotional anymore. It basically is like, here's the numbers, take a look, and if you don't think that my monthly fee is worth more than this number that you're losing every year, then maybe we're not meant to work together. But I can't stress enough our resources library. Our resources library, I think, is one of the greatest assets of ConsultX, and I don't think it gets enough credit. But in this one little niche that you get, module, if you will, of ConsultX, you have training programs, you have all these business plan builders, you have, so many different ways that documents that you can share with business owners if they're struggling in a specific area or they're not as knowledgeable as they should be, and you share with them one of these documents. It literally looks like you spent weeks developing and writing this thing, a book, if you will, and you're just handing it over to them, and they're just like blown away by the knowledge that you give them, and it looks like it's your knowledge, because that's what it is when you're a ConsultX member. And the resources library is just unbelievable, and I've used it in many ways. Like, I've even used it as just giving a presentation in networking events where I'd go up and I'd do one of the presentations. I used all the slides from the system. I maybe tweaked some of the verbiage that I was saying, but in the end, there were people coming up to me going, "Man, I need to send some business your way, or I have some businesses I think you should talk to." It's very valuable, and I would have never had that without ConsultX. So, and then again, you also use it for your existing clients. There's again, these same presentations, you can sell them as an additional service all the time. There's so many businesses that struggle out there with like morale, or employee retention, whatever it may be. And we have presentations that are already put together in here that you can go and give, and you can charge them, a daily rate of per employee fee. It's just worth thousands of dollars of extra money in itself.
You're obviously very passionate about ConsultX, and this would be a great point, Jason. With your knowledge, your experience in business, and your experience with ConsultX, we have actually appointed you one of our ambassadors in the North America region. So if anyone who's thinking about joining ConsultX and would like to have a chat with someone who knows it inside and out and uses it all the time, then reach out to myself or find Jason on LinkedIn, Jason Owens, and he'll be able to sit down with you and have a chat about anything to do with consulting or ConsultX. Now, Jason, people get into consulting for a lot of different reasons, and one of the biggest draw cards seems to be income and lifestyle. I hear that every single day. Can you tell us how your income and lifestyle has been affected by ConsultX?
Well, I think the income and the lifestyle is all part of it. I don't know that I've ever, because I was a business owner and then went to working for other companies, and for most of those companies I worked out of my home. I never really was a 9 to 5, and frankly, when I met my wife, neither of us were these straight up 9 to 5 people. So a lifestyle business is the only thing I've ever known. But I understand why people are, especially with COVID, why people are thinking that way. But honestly, I get into consulting because I'm what I call myself as a flat out business nerd, and that I just love, not only do I love working with all different types of businesses and finding out, their challenges and all the, different areas that struggle with different types of businesses. But my driving force hasn't changed since 2004 with that Zig Ziglar quote, is I just wanted to help people and help as many people as I possibly could. And I knew that, after I was struggling or frustrated with being an employee or working for other businesses, I knew that I needed to be on my own again. And I knew that there was no better way to help more people succeed than being a consultant and helping these entrepreneurs and business owners, actually achieve their goals and achieve their dreams. And that is above and beyond way more rewarding to me than the financials. The financial, if you have the ability to help business owners, you're going to make a nice living. You're going to live the lifestyle. It's that shouldn't be your starting goal. That is the end result. And I just think that if you're here just because you hear consultants get paid, $500 an hour, and you think that you should be that, then it's not going to be that genuine, authentic. You're there to help them. And I promise you, anybody listening, that if you're genuine and you really want to help them succeed and aren't worried what's coming into your pockets, you're going to receive plenty, and it's going to fill more than just your pockets, because it's going to be just that much. It's just that it just gets me up and going every single time.
Many of our listeners are considering becoming consultants. What would you say is the best way for them to get started?
Well, I honestly think that it really comes down to your tools, systems, and processes. And like I said, you may have a large enough market that or you know enough people that have seen you be successful and see you do certain things, or know that you're a guru in as a CFO and really know your stuff in financials, or a CEO for that matter. But nonetheless, there comes a time when you're going to be talking to cold prospects or people that need to understand, or aren't really just being like taking your name for its face value and being like, all right, Jason, I heard all about you. I think you can help my business. So you need a way to clearly articulate what you are doing, and I think this is also important because, Julius, you and I talk often about advisors, coaches, and consultants. And I think it's important for everybody listening to really identify what you want to be and what service you want to offer. Because it was clear to me, I knew this before I ever even found ConsultX, is that I knew that I wanted to be, I'll use ConsultX's term, a partner in people's business. I wanted to be heavily involved with making them succeed. I didn't want to be hired as a social media consultant. I didn't want to be hired as an HR consultant, So there are certain people, and there are a lot of consultants that's what their expertise is, and that's what they want to do. And if it is, that's fantastic. But it still comes a time when you go into a prospect to win them as clients, you need to prove your ROI. And there's a statistic out there that 50 to 80% of consultants, coaches, and advisors can't sustain their lifestyle just on this business alone because they spend so much of their time in business development. They don't have enough clients. And I will tell you that if you utilize a system like ConsultX, and again, yes, I'm an advocate for ConsultX, but if you choose to look at other ones out there, there are franchises out there that cost a lot of money. There are other people that say they have every tool you need, but I'm telling you, you need these tools. So to go into a prospect thinking you're going to walk in there with a blank tablet and a pen and say, okay, tell me about your business, and thinking you're going to walk out of there winning them as a client is the foolish thing that I did, back in 2018. So again, I just think you need to have a clear system and process in place on how you're going to walk clients through the system, what your goal is, how you're going to charge for your service. And I know that I went through a lot of different methods before even finding ConsultX. And once I found ConsultX, it's all here. So you can do as I did and spin your wheels for 6 months thinking you know it yourself. Or you can join a system like ConsultX or join ConsultX, which is what we prefer. And really you get the hands-on, the training, the tools, the proprietary software, you get it all. There's not a question mark. You're not sitting there banging your head against the wall because I did it. I listened to David's podcast and I'm like, oh yeah, I can write that questionnaire. And I spent weeks trying to develop it. And finally one night I was so frustrated with my PowerPoints and my Excel spreadsheets that I literally emailed Dave and was like, we got to talk. It was it. We got to talk. And so yeah, I think the number one tip I can give anybody is you need a plan and you need to be clear. You need a definite elevator pitch because lo and behold, I promise you one of the first things you're going to do is go to a networking event and they're going to say, well, so what do you do? And you're like, oh, I'm a consultant. Okay, what kind of consultant? What do you do? And you need to have a clear plan on what that is.
That's very true. Saying you're a consultant is just so open-ended and gives no definition of what you can do and how you can do it. So that's a great tip. To close this interview off, can you give our listeners a couple of other gold nuggets of advice that will help them in their consulting careers?
Well, I think the number one, which if I haven't beaten that to death yet, is you need to be genuine. You just need to, the biggest thing I could ever say is, you need to have the ability to help people. If you have that ability, if you have the expertise in even one area, you need, I don't mean to side note this, but so even if you have an ability in one area, and maybe you're saying you are going to be an HR consultant, what I suggest is a lot of time business owners, when they reach out for a specific consultant, a lot of times they don't know what they really need. So if you say you're an HR consultant, and they actually need a sales consultant, then you're never going to get that call because you're an HR consultant. So I oftentimes tell people that are considering this, don't put your eggs all in one basket and pigeonhole yourself into a specific area of business. So I strongly suggest you, again, with our approach and with an approach similar to ConsultX, you can um, you can go and sorry, I got sidetracked, but you can go and really offer your services in a wide range of stuff.
And do you have a second nugget you can give us for our listeners?
I would say that you need the tools, you need to be genuine, and you need to have a clear definition of what you want to be. But besides that, I think you just get yourself out there and have a lot of conversations.
Well, thank you very much for those gold nuggets, Jason, and really a completely interesting interview. I'm sure our listeners will have gained a lot.
I hope so. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I hope we can do it again.